for some other day. Only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, sticking up about the same mistake. Darling, when you go away, it won't be as simple for you.
Yo guys, it is Old Man G here, RDS, back again for another show. First of all, I want to apologize for a few things. The first thing is that I'm on the road, so apologies for lighting, that things looking a bit different. Second, I actually wasn't supposed to be doing the show today. This show was actually supposed to be on Friday. I scheduled it wrong for tonight, and then I look up and see, whoa, there's 8 people waiting for me to go live. So I kind of felt bad. So I was like, you know what? There's still a lot to talk about. Let's just crack ahead with the show, and obviously I'll rearrange and maybe do another show for Friday, probably like a Q&A or something like that. But before we get into it, if you are new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on We United X on Twitter. Smash that notification button, like button, etc., etc. Hopefully everyone can see me. We've got a good show today. Obviously, this is in part a live call-in. So for those who want to come on, we're probably going to have a few more live call-ins, just as a lot of this takeover news comes in, and we kind of hear more about the whole Sir Jim thing. Obviously, shout out to those who watched the show on, I think it was Saturday when news was released. Apologies for not doing on Sunday. I didn't realize that I was actually supposed to be working, so there's that. So I'm probably going to plan on doing quite a few more of these types of shows, because I'm sure there's a lot of people have their things to say. Obviously, I have my thoughts. I'm going to get into some of my thoughts regarding where we are with Sir Jim. So that's going to be the first part of the show. Then we're going to talk, obviously, about the United injury crisis, to be honest, because I think the United injury crisis right now is a mess. I'm hearing Casemiro's injured, although it looks like he's playing. He's got an injury. Why is he? Why he should be coming back to United? Why is he playing again still for Brazil? I don't know. Hearing about Malacia and the fact that again, like so many Manchester United players, it sounds like he was asked to play through injury. He was asked to play for injury again. Take painkillers, and he's asked to do surgery. It's the same thing with Malacia as well. I don't know who's in Manchester United's medical department, but the amount of players that we've lost, it seems, that have been asked to, I think Wan-Bissaka, I think, probably was the same. We've lost a lot of players who were asked, to basically just play through injury. Now, obviously, there's positives. We've got, I think, Reguilon is going to be back. So, but the very fact that he went off injured, there's got to be there's a lot of pressure on these players who essentially are who are basically going to have to play far more games than they normally would to keep up with what's going on. And that's a big issue for Manchester United, quite frankly. So we'll talk about that. And then obviously it will be a brief Sheffield United preview. Obviously, Premier League is back. Manchester United have to win. So we'll talk a bit about that. And yeah, but we'll obviously revisit that subject matter come the weekly Q&A as well. So let's get into the Sir Jim Ratcliffe stuff. Now, I know there's obviously reports online, that there's been issues of delays. Maybe maybe that might not go through, etc., etc. there's a lot of talk. I mean, I see I see Lucky Singh in the chat. Things will ease out. Big up Lucky Singh in the chat, and big up Stephanie as well. Big up you guys. Really appreciate your ongoing support. Yeah, there was obviously a lot of talk about there being delay to the deal. Obviously, we were told, I think, on Thursday that the 25% share price that Sir Jim was the stake, so that Sir Jim was supposed that was going to potentially be ratified on Thursday. That is not the case. Reports are basically saying that while should still happen, I think possibly the delay is related to Sir Jim Ratcliffe trying to finalize things regarding the deal, making sure that obviously he gets what he wants, because the key thing here in this deal is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants complete and total control over sporting sporting decisions at Manchester United. So you've got 25% stake, but we're in charge of sporting decisions at Manchester United, whereas the Glazers would obviously keep the remaining share. Now, to be honest, personally, I feel that suits the Glazers. I'm not entirely sure. You know, a lot of people, I think, would say that almost the Glazers, because I mean, the way I almost see it is that, like, if it's a win-win for the Glazers, it's a win for the Glazers because they get the money, but they also now have another four guy, because if there's any issues with sporting aspects of Manchester United, the buck is going to stand with Sir Jim, not the Glazers anymore. Even though I feel like it should stop with the Glazers, So at the end of the day, I think that the reports of Sheikh Jassim could potentially make a late bid, all these things. I think that's gone. I think for anyone thinking that there's even a chance that Sheikh Jassim comes back into this, I mean, there's always a possibility, but I think Sheikh Jassim was fairly definitive in his stance regarding Manchester United, that he was not going to come back in the race to purchase Manchester United. The Glazer price, the Glazer value for us it just didn't fit with marketing price. It just wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. Now, obviously, as I've said before, I'm quite I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I'm very, very disappointed that we couldn't get Qatar. Not because I have a big issue with Sir Jim, but because it was clear to me the plan that Qatar wanted to have. It's still not clear to me what Sir Jim is going to do, and I hope that in the coming days that we actually get clarity exactly. We need to see if the deal is accepted. Of course. The thing is, it's what I would say, I guess, to caveat everything they're saying, is that it's not been officially confirmed that the Sir Jim Ratcliffe deal is done. Of course, it's not. It's not been officially confirmed. However, I think we know, and I think Fabrizio, Ben Jacobs, etc., they alluded to the fact that Sheikh Jassim pulled out in part because of the Glazers discussions with Sir Jim, knowing that the Glazers preferred the minority offer. And for me, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing, Lucky. It's just that, my thing is just that with the board to which the Glazers form majority, it was obvious to me from the beginning, and Tom kind of alluded to it when he was on the channel. It was obvious to me that the Glazers, their preference was, well, by Glazers I mean Joel and Avram, their preference was to stay. That's to me. It was obvious to me, the Glazers, their preference ultimately was to stay. By the way, big up the St. George's the George Best George Best room. This is a George Best room. Big it up, man. But anyway, their preference was always to stay. It was always to stay, and when you consider, if you look back, when you consider the fact that the Glazers sought out minority investment first, they sought out minority investment first, at the very least, from up to a year before they sort of said, okay, United's up for sale. And quite frankly, I think they did that. I mean, I'm a cynic here, but I feel like they did that ultimately to raise the price of Manchester United up to get a value assessment on Manchester United. And ultimately, they won. They won. They got their value assessment. Sir Jim Ratcliffe values Manchester United at $7.5 billion technically. Well, just over seven billion US dollars, which is insane. Manchester United it's so Manchester United effectively got sold for double the market price. That is insane. Considering where Manchester United are, I don't know how Manchester United got valued for that amount, and I also don't know how Manchester United are going to continue to be that. And there's obviously, I won't be surprised if the Glazers at some point in the future buy out or buy back Sir Jim shares, because the plan presumably is for Sir Jim to buy the Glazers. I don't know with what money. We'll see. I'm not a financial expert. I'm hoping, obviously, Tom would normally give us the sort of spiel, but unfortunately, Tom was dealing with some personal issues. So, all I can really give from my perspective is that I generally am not sure where the money is going to come for these Manchester United products. I just don't know. I really don't know where it's gonna come from. You've got to invest in the team. You've got to invest in the stadium. You've got to continue to buy the club. You've got to invest in the community, women's team, and things like that. I don't know where it's coming from, guys. I generally do not know where it's coming from. I don't. And I don't know, guys. I really don't know. Is there a chance that the deal could come off? Possibly. But as I said, guys, the Glazers, I think, always wanted, always wanted to stay in some capacity. Yeah, I think according to United, I mean, there are a few people saying that obviously that the deal of them is not going to be, the board are meeting first. It's probably not going to be ready for it as well. There's nothing related to them voting in Sir Jim's proposal tomorrow, which will be Thursday. Obviously, there's talks about the fact that Paul Mitchell, who's obviously head of Monaco, that's one of the things that's been going around a lot, is the fact that Paul Mitchell might be the new sporting director for Manchester United going forward to replace, obviously, Murta. That's a possibility. I'm sure there are a lot of people that think, because I think he's a decent sporting director. You obviously saw what he did at Monaco. So there's definitely going to be, I think what you find is in the next, if it is Sir Jim and Sir Jim is confirmed, I think you're going to find a lot of propaganda, let's put it that way, a lot of positive spin press in regards to signings, in regards to ownership, management change, all these different things. And while I don't have necessarily a problem with those things, I think that people are going to be, and it's typical fans, you'll be like, oh, right, we signed this player, we did this, we did that, therefore things are good. And you're going to forget the structural problems that Manchester United would have not changed. My expectations going forward are incredibly low. I don't expect, I generally don't expect anything from this Manchester United ownership currently. Of course, I'm happy to be proven wrong. If I'm proven wrong and United compete for Premier Leagues and Champions League in the next 2-3 seasons, great. No problem. Great. No problem. But I just don't see that. I just don't see that, guys. Just don't see that. Lucky Singers is keep me coming. Chance of Jim will have control. Yeah, well, I assume that's the case. I assume that's the case. That's what's going to happen, but you don't know. You never know. You never know. I'm just seeing if there's any sort of latest. Just having. I mean, Ineos is trending on Twitter. I don't know why. But obviously, presumably, Ineos is going to take the debt or take a considerable amount of the United debt. I suspect that's the case. Big off back time. Shout out to Red Devil Studios. Thanking you, buddy. The show wasn't supposed to even go on. Like, I accidentally scheduled it for this time, and I saw quite about, was it 6-7 people waiting? So I thought, you know what, I should be professional and get it done. So so this was actually supposed to be a Friday show. So I'm probably not going to be, because I'm working tomorrow, I'm probably not going to be live for that long. But I just thought I would just address some key points on here, just giving my thoughts on where things are. And obviously, this is a live call-in show, so if anyone wants to come in, the link is pinned. You can come in and have your say on this whole Sir Jim Duda, at least while we're still live. So yeah, I think ultimately, like, you know, I try and be I'm trying to be relatively moderate on this channel. And you know, I mean, this, you know, some people saying hopefully Ineos supposed to be charged for the January transfer window. I mean, I don't know. I don't see United is still under financial fair play. So unless, like, we're going to be pushing to sell multiple players like Maguire, maybe McTominay, etc., I don't see how Manchester United go spending big in January. I think that's one of the key things that people seem to forget, is that even with new ownership, you know, plus or minus a few, maybe we could have spent more bit with Qatar, I'm not sure. But, you know, United are still constrained by financial fair play. So as it stands now, United aren't getting anyone in January, even though we desperately need to sign players because of the injuries. And personally, I'd offload some of them. If we were a ruthless club, you know, we have so many, and I'll talk about the injury crisis in a second, because that's something that I want to dwell on personally as a Manchester United fan, and how bad things are, and maybe give my thoughts to Docs as well. But yeah, we need to sell before we can buy. Is essentially what I'm saying. Just seeing if there's any more updates regarding the sale on Twitter. Just have a quick look at my Ben Jacobs and Mike Keegan, see if they're saying anything. Obviously, it's unfortunate what happened to Neymar. Neymar out for 9 months, man. As Ben Jacobs is saying, the pledged investment commitment, originally 1 billion, was not factored into any decision making. Sheikh Jassim wanted to specify it nonetheless to show his commitment, but some close to the process maintain this was nothing more than a PR exercise to inflate numbers. Interesting. There was tension between Sheikh Jassim and Rain Group ever since 9 Nation original statement declaring they had bid. Two different narratives haven't helped in terms of relational clarity. Yeah, I mean, I think as we hear more about the Sheikh Jassim bid, I just feel like at the end of the day, that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was probably a lot more cozy up to, a lot more cooperative, plus or minus professional, I don't know, with how he conducted things on the bid. You know, the reality is that I'm glad that Qatar told us what they were going to do, but you felt more that there was more talk and more leakage, more speak from the Qatari side in terms of PR than there was from the Sir Jim side. So Jim, for the most part, and his team kind of moved in silence. You know, Qatar, you know, they're talking, but really, what were they doing exactly? What were they doing? Not much, apparently, you know. So Yeah, that's Ben Jacobs giving his thoughts there. And then I think I just want to quickly see if Mike Keegan said anything, because those guys, Mike Keegan and Ben Jacobs, plus or minus, um, Fabrizio and a few others, have been decent with this. Um, yeah, he's Mike Keegan with the what happens to Manchester United's debt and all that stuff. Um, yeah, Mike is saying they'll fix the roof, but it probably isn't going to be that much different. Yeah, and I think this is what I'm saying. Um, and so Mike Keegan is also echoing the whole idea that Sheikh Jassim's bid started on the wrong foot. Ratcliffe team impressed the old temp president staff, anticipating exact changes. Qatar spend on World Cup a factor. Interesting. Um, yeah. At the end of the day, guys, it's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult. Um, do you know? Bath Time says, "Do you know any figures that are young fans that go on camera RDS?" Um, I don't. I don't. I know fans of other channels. Sorry, other clubs that are. I could potentially ask one of my brother-in-law's a physiotherapist. Um, so I'm a medic myself, actually. So I'm going to have a brief say regarding these injuries, because you know I do a bit of MSK in part of my work, and I generally am shocked. Well, I'll come to that. I'll come to that a bit. I'll come to that a bit. I'll come to that a bit. I think this is what matches is charging or not. It's not what's going on. Sorry, 2 seconds. Anyway, moving on. Broken charger. Qatari struck me as bordering on amateur. I mean, this is the thing. I think what I've kind of realized, obviously it's coming out the Qatari bid, is that it just seems to be very. I'm not denying that the Qatar didn't have the money. I'm sure they did. I don't think anyone denies that. But the manner in which they went about it was very. You could maybe even say it was kind of unprofessional, almost, as if like, or arrogant, maybe, as if it was kind of like our way or the highway type of thing. And when they when someone played their bluff, in the case of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, they didn't know what to do. um that's kind of what I see from this situation. They weren't adaptable or flexible with what they wanted. I mean, they could have easily done what Sir Jim did and said, okay, fine, I'll match you guys. They could have at least not overtly played their hand, saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to spend $1 billion investment and do this and do that." I just think that they try to generate a lot of PR and appease fans to almost put pressure on the Glazers um, to sell to them. But the reality and where Qatar, what's the word, didn't calculate for is the fact that Glazers don't give a crap about the United fans and never have. They're going to do what's in their best interests. And I think that's basically something that I don't think that Qatar is really thought about. Edmund says, didn't move in science. He had the English sports journals. Well, yeah, I mean, not all of them. Let's keep it a stack. He did have them, but those small journals are not going to put pressure on the Glazers. The Glazers don't care about English journalists. They never have. But yeah, if you've now got fans, multiple or large amount of fans that are wanting Qatar to take up the club, that you're obviously going to feel that as well. At least potentially that's what I think. My focus as football watching must be to if Jim Ratcliffe is accepted. Okay. I'm not sure what. I assume you're saying that Sheikh Jim's bid was the best. I'm not sure. With the cancellation of the soap opera Doctors today, are we facing an imaginary just cut back as well as real ones? Bro, that Doctor show was. I mean, this is the problem with those shows like that is that, like, as especially as a doc. I mean, fairness, it got better. It did get better, but my goodness, man, some of the stuff in the early seasons, it's just scratching my head, going, "Oh, you wouldn't do that. Why are you doing that? Stop doing that. Doesn't make sense." Do they have the money? They spend 200 million on a World Cup, already own a stake for, and wouldn't match the price per share. I mean, and that's a fair point. I mean, well, I think that they probably. I mean, I think they probably had the same amount of money as Sir Jim, because obviously we know that Sir Jim and Ineos don't have the money in quote. So I think both of the dudes had you know, we're talking around here. They have billions, obviously, but I agree with you in that I feel like, you know, there was a lot of PR. There was a lot of PR from Qatar, but really and truly, you know, what did they do? And the only thing I can think of is that obviously that where I think people were thinking that Sheikh Jassim was the Glazers were using Sir Jim to get Qatar to bid more. I think what we saw was that if anything, it was the other way around, and probably the Glazers were actually using Sheikh Jassim to get Sir Jim to off his minority offer. That's what I think. You know, I generally think that, you know, because the Glazer family couldn't agree on a sale. And at the end of the day, Avram and Joel are the ones that have the heart and passion in the club. I don't think that they generally wanted to leave at all. And I think what you found was that if they were going to get a substantial minority offer, you know, by all means. I think the other four probably were like, you know, are probably pissed because they're like, we could have left with like $1 billion each. Then you then add the fact that, you know, clearly it seems reports saying that Sheikh Jim engaged in rain. All this is difficult. It's all speculation at the end of the day because, you know, what we were told at the time versus what we're told now is very different. So I'm very reluctant to believe 100% what a lot of journalists are saying, because a lot of what they're saying now is very different to what they were saying. They're apparently in the nose, knowing what's going on, but what they're saying is quite different to what they've been saying over the last couple of months or so. So I'd still take a lot of these reports with a pinch of salt. Roger says, why didn't you? I don't know, Rajit. One interesting I saw about the bike guys, is at Sky Cycling. He got a surgeon to come in and teach everyone how to wash their hands so they're less susceptible to colds. Interesting. The hand hygiene is not good in this country. I'll give you that. And notes right. Anybody who keeps guys the club and goes a bit of them is our enemy. Says Rajit, fair enough. Obviously, you know, I did a poll on the community tab, and I think a good 90% of people didn't want Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So there's that. So that's what the community seems to agree with. Kind of comes also when that searching seems to find British people. But as the football structure, so we have to go, well, it's only 25% lucky. 70 likes. Yeah, get those likes up, guys. Get those likes up. I'm deliberately staying up to do this show for you guys accidentally, because this was supposed to be on Friday. So I'm doing it for you guys. I'm staying up for you guys. It's you guys. So big up yourselves in the chat and the trend. I appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, I think that, you know, I think with this, we will wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens, and hope for the best. Hope that we get some insight regarding what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's deal is going to look like. But I don't have any high expectations. I don't think the way that the football club is going to be run from the footballing perspective, is going to change that much. United still going to have financial fair play restrictions. United still need to offload players. United still need to put in a structure in place, and we'll see what happens. And like I said, I'm willing to be wrong. If Sir Jim comes in with Paul Mitchell, they hire the right people, and obviously, what does this mean for Ten Hag? What does this mean for Ten Hag? Because at the end of the day, you know, if Sir Jim is going to take a more direct approach, and he sees what's going on in Manchester United right now, it's quite possible that he's more likely to sack Ten Hag right now than not. Whereas the Glazers, who are taking a quite an offhanded approach, yes, of course they might sack if we continue doing badly, and we'll talk about Sheffield in a second. But are they in a rush to? Not necessarily. So I think that dynamic is going to be interesting. What's the dynamic going to be between, because Ten Hag does not had, well, he's had a sporting director at Ajax, but he's not a sporting director at Manchester United. That is more direct, that has more ownership, I would say. Mertz obviously and co them, do to a certain extent, but I would imagine it's going to be very different with Ratcliffe and Paul Mitchell if he comes. Let's have a look. Let's move some questions. Let's have a look. Buy 25% to stick with you to call in 2 years down there. Well, that's his plan. Whether that work or not, who knows? Who's your favorite Glazer RDS? Is it Kathy? Because you don't really hear from her that much. Question: do you think he will say? What do you mean? Do you think? Well, what I know is that nothing is getting ratified tomorrow in the boardroom. So I tell her that. Your favorite? It's lucky. Darcy. Sorry, that's it. It's Darcy, not Kathy. I thought it was Kathy. Or Malcolm, because actually, when we actually did win stuff under Malcolm Glazer, and then he died, and then the siblings his children just don't have a clue. But Malcolm, I guess we won stuff, so there's that. Although was the reason he did buy us on debt, which was bad. So make of that what you will. Make of that what you will. He's obviously not the recruitment plan. Well, I mean, it's difficult not to focus on the recruitment plan when you've got so many injuries out. And I think, and let's just quickly move on to that actually. Injuries. United have an injury crisis right now. Let's have a look. I'll switch to this. United have an injury crisis right now. We already obviously we know that according to Ten Hag that Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, and Tyrell Malacia are all long-term injuries. So, any hope? I was hoping that Wan-Bissaka. I mean, I'm fuming, guys, because I think that I genuinely believe, and it makes sense when you look at how United performed towards the end of last season. I genuinely believe a lot of. I mean, here's my thing. Footballers are already playing a lot of games. On top of that, this season, they're adding on additional time to extra time. On top of that, there's still 4 competitions. At the end of the day, footballers are human beings and they have a limit to the amount of games they can play. Add in, World Cup and Euro qualifiers and stuff like that. That doesn't help either. So, you have a limited squad of 25 players to pick from, and the reality is that the constant games, maybe lack of scouting injury record wise, all these different things play a big part to where Manchester United are with their injuries. But to make matters worse, with a lot of players, I know this happens across all of sport, but it's not a good idea. Will continue to play on with Tyrell Malacia needs surgery, so it's like, okay, so he's torn his whatever. Why is it that you're letting him play rather than resting it and him taking pay cuts and making it worse? We've seen that with Malacia. We've seen that with Martinez. Foot fracture back, play with it, using painkillers. It made it whole worse. He's out. This is a problem at Manchester United, and I don't know whether it's because of the absence of a long-term footballing doctor. Because apparently that's been vacant or locuming with it. I don't know. But we need someone in that setup who is firm, who can stand up and say, no, you cannot play. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how much in form you are. I don't give a crap about any of those things. We need you. We need you to be fit. We need you to be fit. And I can't have you being fit, if you're constantly injured. Let's have a look at some of your comments, guys. Stephanie, big up. Stephanie says, do we have recognized left back available for Saturday RDS? I think reports are saying that Reguilon will be back. I'll obviously cover do a more in-depth preview against Sheffield United on Friday, and obviously the press conference will be back. But early reports saying that Reguilon will be back. So Reguilon being back is a massive boost. Casemiro did play for Brazil. There were reports that Casemiro looked like he was out injured away, but it looks like he's back. But I don't know how fit he's going to be, Casemiro. And already, given how he's played, I feel like he and a few others are the type of players that will play with an injury. We don't have. I'm not sure about Martinez, but I don't think he's ready to come back. We don't know about Varane either. Although I suspect that Varane will probably be quite close. What did he come at the end? I'm trying to remember. Oh, he did come back. Sorry, he did come back. Sorry. It's quite late here. Sorry for the yawn, guys. But so Varane is back. So Martinez, Wan-Bissaka, Shaw, Malacia are kind of the main absentees, with Casemiro being true. But to be honest, would you be surprised if we got injuries to Reguilon again, that Casemiro is playing for the pain, that Rashford is playing for the pain as well? Like, at the end of the day, and I think this is the problem, and this is why I've said so many times why City will win the league, not necessarily because I think they can't be beaten, but because they have the most in-depth squad. We focus so much on trying to create a best 11, but the reality is that, like, especially these days, footballers are going to get injured. The squad wins you the major trophies, not the first 11. It is the squad that makes you win the major trophies, not the first 11. Not now. Gone are the days when you can rely on one individual to carry you. Yeah, it could work maybe if you're lucky, but generally speaking, you can't rely on that one individual. They're going to get injured, they're going to get fouled, they're going to get a red card. You can't do it anymore. Okay, you just can't. Just doesn't work. Yeah, it will be regular. That's what I'm saying. Wan-Bissaka must be about 6 weeks off, but it's very annoying to get injured with 3 months to go and defeat after. Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. I think that he must have been injured already, and that's what annoys me more, is that, like, I don't think he came on fit and then became injured. I suspect that he, like a lot of players like Martinez, were playing with an injury. Were playing with with painkillers, to just play, and maybe Ten Hag thought, okay, you can bring him on for 3 minutes, etc., just here or there, and also exacerbating it backfired. That's that. Man investigation, what to win? Well, I don't know. Playing with painkillers and putting off operation has been happening for 100 years. No, I know, but I just think that I think when you combine that with the fact, with the amount of games that footballers are playing now, and the intensity in which they're having to play as well, it just doesn't bode well. It just doesn't bode well, and maybe maybe it's just a doctrine sort of thinking. So, but you also got to think of the long term as well. Like so many of these players, the Pogbas and Neymars, so many of these players that were great and we're seeing it now more, is that these players that were picking up or beginning to pick up multiple injuries when they're younger, pick up more significant and severe injuries as they get older. I don't know many players that were injured regularly that don't end up developing significant injuries or more frequent injuries as they get older. Because it's part of your development. Because when you're still growing, and footballers play a lot of football, they're still growing, their bones are still growing, muscles, etc., still growing, and so when you get some serious injuries when you're young, they can potentially cause you problems when you're a lot older, especially given the intensity that people are playing at. Yeah, I don't know. This is why I feel like researching players' injury record, as well as focusing on the squad depth and not necessarily a focusing on a get best 11 is the way going forward. Let's have a look at these comments, guys. But yeah, injury crisis at Manchester United. What can you do? What can you do? But I do think that not having, I think rumors are that United don't really have a permanent head of medicine, head of medical, like right now, which is, I don't know. Let's have a look. The comments, guys. Where is it? I'm here. Yeah. When will Luke Shaw be returning? Yeah, probably December. He's long term. Casemiro for halftime versus Brentford. Rashford looked off after 60 minutes. I'm not sure we see them start, even if they are they are fit. Yeah, we'll talk about the starting now. I mean, it's Sheffield United away. Sheffield United. I mean, I'll kind of briefly talk about the Sheffield United game. It's Sheffield United away. Sheffield United have not started well, although I don't think they're crap, and they've been unlucky a few times. So I could easily see how this could be a bogey situation, especially given how he couldn't break down Burnley. But if I'm honest, I don't necessarily think you need to play. You can play Maguire and Evans, or Evans and Lindelof against these guys. I think I think you'll be okay. You know, we should definitely use the Sheffield United game as a means of easing some of our players back. Personally, I would also use it as a way to bring some of to give Hannibal, Mainu in particular, some more game time, because the bigger game. Well, I mean, there are two big games because if we want to continue our trek on getting top 5, we need to be beating Sheffield United, quite comfortably, because we have the City game next, the United Manchester derby next weekend, and I don't have any high hopes for that. I don't have any high hopes for that game at all. It is what it is, but I don't have any hopes. But these 3 games, Sheffield United away, Copenhagen, and City are big. I think that beating Manchester City at home, I think, would be a statement and would certainly properly kickstart our season. And we need to beat Copenhagen at home. At the end of the day, we missed 2 opportunities to basically build positivity. We should have beaten Palace at home. We didn't. We should have beaten Galatasaray at home. We didn't. We should have easily beaten those 2 teams. We didn't do that, and we put ourselves under unnecessary pressure. Copenhagen are arguably, I'd argue that Copenhagen are probably a better team than Galatasaray, quite frankly. because I think they were FC Copenhagen were 2-0 up, I think, against Galatasaray in Turkey, but then went down to 10 men, and then Galatasaray drew. So I always thought that FC Copenhagen were the third best in this group. United were probably going to be second, and yet United is against Bayern. Okay, fine for free, and then a disaster class by the United defense. In a way, I'm almost glad that Casemiro is going to be playing, because for me, him, Varane, and Onana were responsible for that loss against Galatasaray. Poor defending, not marking. Eriksen to a certain extent. So I hope that with that game, we can use our fullbacks, bring Amrabat into the midfield, probably, in my opinion, play with either Hannibal or Mainu, and see what we can do. Amrabat and Haaland look to be injured. Oh, jeez, man. Yeah, I don't know what, to be frank, I don't know what our midfield's going to look like. I don't know. McTominay, I guess. Even though I wouldn't, it's gonna, if Amrabat can't play, and if Haaland can't play, I mean, this starting 11 is gonna be whack, man. These injuries, man, it's gonna be. This is why I said, guys, we shouldn't have sold Fred, man. I know people don't like it to hear it, but we shouldn't have sold Fred, because whatever you say about Fred, Fred didn't get injured, and was useful. We sold arguably one of our fittest players, Fred and Bruno, being our fittest players. And now we have players. We're playing. We've got gifted technical players. Great, cool. As I've said several times in this channel, I don't care about. Well, I care about technical ability, but it's still secondary to availability. Availability is the most important trait, and seeing that we have a squad of players that are getting recurrent injuries, with the exception of, that's why I don't necessarily go in on Bruno that much. I'm not saying he's been great, but at the end of the day, like, he's one of the few players that doesn't seem to not get injured. Everyone else seems to. Even McTominay gets injured, not as much as others, but he does get injured. Maguire gets injured. Martial, enough said. Rashford's probably playing with injury, So it's just, I don't know what the starting 11 is going to be. Because if Amrabat's there, I don't know what midfield we're going to play. I mean, it should still be good enough to beat Sheffield United, but it presumably is going to have to be, you've got what? McTominay, Eriksen. If Casemiro and Amber are injured, or maybe Casemiro isn't, but I'd rest him because he picked up an injury. Well, I say a lot. You could play Casemiro because he's going to be suspended against Copenhagen anyway. It's just that he's not been great, but you play Casemiro if he's fit, I guess, and he'll rest against Copenhagen. So play him, and then play him with McTominay, and then maybe Eriksen. Maybe that's what it'll be. I still think maybe Van der Beek should be there, because I just feel like, I'm not saying Van der Beek is world class, but I just think it's amazing that we have a midfielder who, we've got injury crisis right now, in midfielder that just doesn't even hold bench. And obviously Hannibal's there as well to give us some pace. Yeah, Ellington was Sorenberg was at risk of graduate injury, and he played few minutes sub before he got. I said Eric Ten Hag's game management is somewhat questionable, and his game management and man management is somewhat questionable, very questionable. Mount at 10 with Bruno Amber at 8 is good. I agree, but if Amber is injured, but we'll know, obviously, we'll find out. Ryan Giggs sorted something out with yoga or something and became much less injury prone as he got older. There's that. So there's that. But obviously, like I said, he did something about it. And I still think even back then, the amount of games that those dudes were playing was nowhere near as much as they are now. Especially because, but Stephanie, it's mad amount of injuries nowadays. Pitches, better squads, larger, more substitutes available, more technical refs sometimes. Yep. I mean, it's getting to the point where you might have to introduce unlimited substitutions. Hopefully not, but that's what it feels like. Glad some players to make an impact. I hopefully. I mean, his injury record is flawless, pretty much. Well, not flawless, but I mean, it's pretty good. And I've said this several times with CR7 and Messi, is that like I don't remember a season where like they were like injured for like a couple of months. I can't remember, like maybe like a week or two, but months out. I literally can't remember Ronaldo and Messi being out being out for that, and that's part of the reason why they're both goats. Though Messi has the World Cup. Who do we sign as replacement for Van Leach until he gets back? Johnny Evans was the signing, Rajat. Yeah, I'd start McTominay if Amrabat isn't fit. I'd start McTominay and Casemiro against Sheffield United. That should be enough. Well, I mean, if it was up to me, I would play. I'd play McTominay further forward. But yeah, maybe Casemiro McTominay, just because Sheffield United are quite physical. So as much as I think Hannibal has speed, I don't know. I have a think he'll get bullied quite a bit. So that's my only thing. If Mainoo was playing regular, I would have probably put him there. But yeah. Zoitang says, RDS, I always said it. I knew the Glazers would never sell one of the one assets unless Qatar spend close to 10 billion. United is a money machine that generates $500 million a year. They are smart to sell just a piece. And you're right, Zoitang. You're right. Wealthy people never sell. They either get a loan against the asset or just sell a small percentage. And the thing is, Zoitang, you're right, is that fundamentally is that we know that the Glazers' preference, and by Glazers I mean John Avram, was more for a minority investment. That's why they spent the first year trying to find it. I mean, it's the same thing with Liverpool's owners. Liverpool's owners want minority investment. They don't want to sell. And like I said, the Qataris should have, the Qataris just weren't smart with it. They just weren't smart with it at all. They weren't smart. And I just feel like, Sir Jim knew the rain, must have got more inside information, familiar with what's going on, etc. The Qatar just seems to just be like, well, just throw money at it and see what happens, and grossly miscalculated. He beat Sheffield United and City. That's 6 wins from his first 10 Premier League games, which were a decent recovery. Yeah, I mean, no, there's no excuse not to beat Sheffield. There's no excuse. If we lose to Sheffield United, then you can forget about top 5, because we need top 5 to get into Champions League. You can forget about top 5 if we can't beat Sheffield United. City, I'm more concerned about because of the return of Rodri. Rodri will be back, and that makes City play far better. And last season, with our home record, I was like, you know what? We have a chance. We always have a chance in Derby. This season, looking at our home record, losing to Galatasaray, losing to Palace, losing to Brighton, almost dropping points, almost losing to Forest, almost dropping points against Wolves. Manchester City are a better team than none of the teams I mentioned, with the exception of maybe Brighton, are top 5. So, I know this might be bad, but like at the end of the day, this might be the City game might be the first spanking that United get this season, especially because of the amount of players that are injured. But it is what it is. Sheffield United don't like defending. Hopefully we can score them. Eriksen, McTominay. Oh man, that's dead. That's dead. Midfield, if Casper number one, both Hannibal or McTominay, Ericsson or Donny and Bruno Mount for me. I would love Donny to come back in. You know, McTominay and Van der Beek isn't that bad of a midfield, to be honest. Partly because Van der Beek has more legs than these guys, but he won't play Donny. As Thingy says, Stephanie says front three: Rashi, Rasmus, Anthony, but Garnacho instead of Rashi also okay. Yeah. If the rumors are that Rasmus Højlund is injured, which might be a problem, then you probably will have who you have. He'll probably play Rashford in number 9. What he'll do is he'll play, if Rasmus is injured, he'll play Rashford as number 9, and then he'll play Garnacho, and then Anthony. He'll play Garnacho and Anthony. Although I have a feeling that Ten Hag is still going down this. I don't know what it is, but I just have this feeling that, especially after it's just been we've just kind of finished things now, and they've forgotten about what happened against Brentford. They were like, "Oh yeah, of course, I'll try." You know, things have died down now. I'm gonna try Bruno and Mount again. Bruno and Mount, and placing Bruno on the right. I just have this strong feeling that he's going to be like, "Yep, I need to fit Bruno Mount into this team," and I don't understand it, to be honest. Pick one. He's not going to drop Bruno because Bruno's captain, and he spent money on a Mount. So where are you going to fit them? Personally, I play Mount on the right, but when I see them playing, it always looks like Bruno's on the right and Mount is in the middle, and they just seem to cancel each other out. And this decision is for me is what's going to potentially be the death of Ten Hag. You've basically got the sort of Sanchez and Pogba situation all over again, for those who remember. Toy likes, yeah, big up the likes, get those likes in. Oh, in January. I don't think we're getting anyone in January. I'll just tell you out now. I don't think we're getting any defenders in January. Evans is the signing. So when I said Evans is the signing, I meant Evans is the signing for the season, because I genuinely don't believe we're getting anyone in January. I'll just nip that the butt off right now. Glaze enjoy 3 things. We can beat Man City. I'm not sure what that's based on, if I'm honest, because I've not seen a convincing home performance of Manchester United this season. We weren't. Yes, we beat Wolves, Forest, and Brentford, but were those convincing? No. Wolves outplayed us. Nottingham Forest slapped us for the first 30 minutes, and Brentford, we got lucky in the last minute. Those are the wins. We got pimp slapped by Galatasaray, by Brighton, and a defensive Crystal Palace. We've not really had a team actually come out and attack us properly. Like City. So if I'm honest, I am worried about the City game. I am very, very worried, especially because Rodri will be back. Glazers enjoy everything's money, power, and control. No doubt about that. No KDB or Gundogan. Haaland and Doka is not unbeatable. It's Rodri though. Rodri's is my concern. I don't know if we don't have anyone to stop him personally. Don't think at this rate will beat Gal and Copenhagen. I don't think so either, guys. I don't know where I'm not trying to be negative, but I honestly don't know where the optimism is. I mean, yes, we came back against Brentford 2-1 because of McTominay, but like we weren't close to score. If McTominay didn't come on, we would have lost the game. We weren't close to scoring up until that point. We weren't. It also doesn't matter, even if it's at Old Trafford, we will get spanked. City are also one of the teams who have a good record at Old Trafford. Yeah, exactly. If we beat them, then yeah, maybe we kick us to start of the season, So, and you got to hope that you basically got Sheffield United, which should be an easy game. You got a home game against Copenhagen. You win those 2 games, and maybe you build some momentum going into the game. But when you combine the poor form and also the injuries, you don't know, because remember, we're still we're still missing our two fit fullbacks. You know, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw were often key to the reason as to why we beat City at times. You know, we don't have that now. And then defensively, no Martinez, Varane. We'll see. Is he going to be available? You know, you're going to potentially have Lindelof and Evans, or Lindelof and Maguire, or Varane, either one of them. So I don't know. But big up RSV, man. I wouldn't play Garnacho as false nine. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that personally. Man City doesn't have main players like Gunnar and KDB Arsenal. I mean, Laporte, it was finished. Mahrez is done. You know, these, yeah. Like City. The key thing here is that City have the depth. They have the depth. That's the main thing. And big up Rich. Guys, it's been an hour. Thank you for those who tuned in. Really appreciate it. Always love interacting with the community. Again, like I said, this was supposed to be a Friday show. This was supposed to be a Friday show, but we did it on Wednesday. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to the studio. We're going to be back on Friday with the Q&A, where I'll do a proper Sheffield United review. There will also be a live call in if we have obviously more information about the takeover as well. Match reaction to the Sheffield United game. Obviously it's an 8 o'clock kickoff, so it's going to be late, probably about 10 o'clock time on Saturday. So bear that in mind as well. And if you are a member of the channel, we are going to be doing a members hangout on Sunday as well. But stay tuned. Q&A on Friday. Hopefully everyone's good. Have a nice day and cheers, everyone. Peace.